Uh, can't hear you. Oh no,
Probably
now I
because I
can.
haven't spoken yet. Morning.
I thought you were speaking.
No, I was turning on my microphone,
Oh,
so it
okay.
just sort of did that register thing.
Oh, I thought I had messed up my settings. Yeah, my sister wants to have lunch with me, so I may have to like AFK halfway through the podcast.
Well,
So
I
you
think
have to like,
an hour's about enough.
yeah. So, how are you doing, Anya?
Yeah, not bad. Not bad. I had an easy Friday.
Really, what'd you
Quite
do?
not a great deal. That's the best bit. That's why it was easy. I turned up. I turned up to my first job, and I explained to the woman it was like a three-story terraced house, and it was the middle terrace as well, so it wasn't like an end.
Mm-hmm.
And I explained to her that all the equipment's got to go on this front side of the house because, well, I can't very well drill a hole through the rear and then string a cable up and over a roof or round your neighbour's garden. And she was like, "So what are my options?" I says, "Well, you can have it here in your kitchen because who builds a kitchen in the front of the house? I don't know, but this house did." And I said, "Or you can have it upstairs in one of those bedrooms." She says, "Well, what about right up there at that third window?" I'm like, "My ladders don't reach that high, so no." Um, and she says, "But where's my other options?" I'm like, "Well, you haven't got any plug sockets in that toilet, and who wants their Wi-Fi in a toilet?" So realistically, the best place to do it is right here in the kitchen, where there's two plug sockets right here and a lovely little wall that I can drill through. She says, "Actually, I don't want it."
Oh,
I'm like,
okay.
"All right, you sure?" She said, "Yeah." So I left. That was job number one done. Like literally, I was there 10 minutes. Had like an explanation of what needs to happen. She said, "Nope, don't want it," and went back to bed.
Oh,
She was
okay.
she was like stood there in a frigging onesie, telling me just didn't want it. Second job I went to, I turned up and it was like an an electrical pole
Oh, yeah.
overhead, and it was leaning more than the Tower of Pisa.
Oh,
So I rang for an assistance, and basically a hoist driver turned up and did all the work for me, and all I did is basically smile and nod at the customer. Job number two done. So I went for lunch, had a chat with Soph, and then rang control and said, "Can I have another job, please?" He says, "You can have a short underground providing workshop." And I looked at the notes, and the notes said length of cable unknown, location of equipment unknown. I'm like, shit, what have I got myself in for? It's Friday, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I've just picked up a job that's an hour away, and it
yeah.
has got zero information. So I don't know whether it's like 5 meters or 505 meters. Oh, this is going to be a nightmare. I turned up and it's a brand new built property that's got everything already installed. I
Oh,
scanned a barcode and left.
damn. Okay. That
Scanned a
sounds.
barcode and left. I was home by 3:30. Lovely.
Oh, God. Sounds like a very nice Friday.
It was a lovely Friday. I like Fridays like that.
Are you streaming it?
I am, yeah.
It's top secret. And
Is it?
no. Oh my God. Are you nervous?
No.
That's good.
Um, I sat there and sat there thinking, right, making my coffee this morning. I said to myself,
Hello.
don't add, hey, how you doing, Oxa?
Hello.
Said to myself,
Welcome.
I don't know whether it was yourself who came up with this idea or it was me, but I certainly know it was you who latched onto it and thought this is a brilliant idea.
It was not my idea. I can't remember whose idea it was
What
Um,
idea?
for the
the the
podcast.
the podcast.
Oh, yeah, I can't remember.
Like I said, I'm not sure whether it was my idea or Otto's idea, but I do know that it was Otto that basically said this is happening.
Yeah. Someone mentioned it and I was like, okay, I want to do
Yeah,
that. Sounds
and
interesting.
and then in my absolute genius, I said, "I'll host it. I can carry a conversation. I can push people to talk about shit they don't want to talk about. Gimme." And yeah, so here we are. That's how. So nervous, probably not.
So why am I
Um,
here if you can carry on a conversation?
because like I said to you, if it was just me and Orxo, it just definitely would be more like an interview than it would be a
It
conversation.
is an interview. We're
No, it's not
asking
an
him
interview.
questions and he answers in a very toxic
Yeah.
way.
Is that what you're expecting?
Oh
I
no.
like how
Yes.
Coco's expecting that as well. Some nice toxic conversation between the three of us. No,
Okay.
you got to have a bit more than just me and Oxo, otherwise, sort of a bit
Yeah.
of
Okay, no,
give
I
and
agree
take.
with you.
It's otherwise it wouldn't work. It would not feel less dynamic and more, like I say, me just interviewing
Yeah.
Oxo for a job or something. How much do you want to stay in the free company, Oxo? How much do you enjoy your time
He's not even
here?
in the free company. I
Well,
don't count.
technically he is.
His
How does
all
he?
is doesn't count.
His alt doesn't count. Right, Oxo,
No.
you're now officially not welcome in the podcast because you're not part
Yeah.
of the
Oh
Lazy Free
wow.
Company.
Gonna leave
So
now.
see you all next week. And no, okay.
So yeah, we should probably start.
Yeah.
This is our first time, so I have absolutely no idea how to even do something like this. So
Well, there's a lovely little spot on the second floor of the Free Company house where you can park your character and it can make it look like we actually try. There's a
Oh
nice
wow,
like
yeah,
oh
I can
god,
see
are we
that.
actually
table.
RPing?
Oh, you can pretend we know what we're doing if you like.
Okay. Let me just go to the sofa.
I was tempted to have my camera on. I've even got my Odin T-shirt on. It's from the wrong Final Fantasy, but it's a Final Fantasy T-shirt nonetheless.
Wait, where do I sit?
That's alright.
Wherever suits you, I can see all three chairs.
Okay, sitting next to you is a bit weird. It's gonna like. Oh god, no, I
It's a
got
bit
stuck.
harsh.
What the fuck? Okay. Oh no, sorry. Oh, I don't care.
For a high-end raider, your character control is shocking, Otto. Bouncing around these
That
chairs,
has
not knowing
absolutely.
how to sit down.
Everyone knows the furniture is stupid in this game. Okay,
How can there be a queue at 11 in the morning?
it's a fake queue. Stop people spamming, I guess.
It's only a queue of like 10 people, and it takes like, seconds to get through.
Yeah, 20. Well, I'm still waiting.
Toxic player can't even deal with a 20-man queue. It's no wonder you left England.
Well, Singaporeans love to queue as well. Probably they took it from the British.
Do they? Asians though. Asians don't like
Yeah,
to
but
queue.
they do love to queue here. It's like people joke that it's the national sport.
You win international sport.
Yeah, queuing. Where are you? You said you're in the FC house?
Yeah, top floor. Lovely little
Oh,
chairs.
yeah.
We've even got a
Nice.
smoking cigar. Right. I suppose we should start with some introductions. Make it nice and informal. My name's Inyalios. Most people just call me Enya. I've been in the free company. I actually don't know how long I've been in the free company. It's a few years now, since about 2016, with a small hiatus in the middle there somewhere.
Has it been that long?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
them flies.
that was sort of like patch 3.2-ish when we was raiding Midas, like yourself and I in the team. That's when I joined the free company.
Oh
Um,
right, yes.
yeah, like late. It was late, maybe patch 3.3. It was late 3.2, something like that, when we was raiding Midas and moving into Creator. Those were good days. So yeah, I've been in the free company quite a while. Like I say, a small hiatus there in the middle. Yeah, so that's me. I'm a family man, wife, 2 children. I do play this game a lot. I have quite a lot of hours put into the game. Maybe not quite as much as Queen AFK over here, but the playtime in which I have is honest playtime with
Okay.
minimal AFK. So that's me. On my right we have Otto. If you want to introduce yourself, Otto, our fearless leader.
Hello. I hate these introductions, by the way. I'm just gonna say hello and then move on to
You're gonna
Oxo.
say hello. Okay, when
Yes.
did you found the free company? How long has this free company been around?
Oh my god, since 2015?
2015.
Yeah, that's when it was, yeah.
Is just yourself that made the free company, or is a group of friends still around from when you originally made it? Is there anybody still here in the free company from those early days?
Emilio.
Just
is
Amerio.
well, and Draenor, but I don't think you know him that very well.
No, he was probably one of those people that's got 1,004 days AFK.
Oh, he's around sometimes.
He's around sometimes.
Yeah, but I think that's like the only 2 people, I guess, that have been since nearly day one.
Oh. And then on my left here we have Oxo. He's our Asian connection. He's on the other side of the world, experiencing what life's like on a different data center, or the pains, trials, and tribulations that come along with that. So if you want to just introduce yourself, Oxo.
Yeah, so I'm Oxo. I joined the FC at the end of 2015. So it's been 6 years, or a little bit over 6 years since I've been here.
6 years.
And as you said, now I'm on the other side of the world, playing on mainly the JP data center.
So what time is it for you now?
It is 7 p.m.
7 p.m. So it's just after dinner. Good time to be sitting down and having a chat about your favorite game.
After my
Everybody's
catastrophic
favorite
dinner,
game. Okay, so that's the three of us. We've been in the free company. You know, obviously Otto's the founder, our fearless leader, and then the two of us have been in the free company. You know, 7 years ourselves. Long time, long time. I raided with Otto, as I've said, back in Heaven's Ward, and we've both got a long and varied raiding history. But what about yourself, Orxo? What type of raiding history do you have? Is it just Final Fantasy only, or did you raid in other games as well?
Oh wow, that's a very interesting question. Final Fantasy specific, I think my first serious raid tier was Midas back in Alex.
Right. Okay.
I had been playing since around Reborn, but I didn't really did coils. I think maybe I did turn 1, and that's about it.
What
Because
was it
back
that
then I
stopped
was
you
more
doing the coils?
well. I was mainly playing World of Warcraft back then,
Sinner.
and
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm like the original refugee.
Oh, right.
And
Okay.
Oh, original refugee.
What expansion was it at that point in time, World of Warcraft, that you sort of escaped
oh
from?
god. Well, the one that actually made me just completely quit the game was World of Rainer. That was like 3 expansions ago, I think. But when I started playing Final Fantasy, I think WoW was on Cataclysm. Thereabouts. So yeah, that was my main game. So I was just testing the waters with Final Fantasy. And back in Warcraft, I played mainly as a mythic raider. And with time, I had less free time, so I started to play to just do heroics, which for those who are not familiar with that, mythic would be something along the likes of like last turn of Savage, early phases of Ultimate,
Right.
and heroics would be like the early turns of Savage in terms of difficulty, more or less.
That's me, by the way. I haven't a bloody clue about anything World of Warcraft related except for the current sort of drama that's going on in the media that everybody knows about.
Yeah, it's the
Like,
same
Yeah.
for me as well.
you never played World of Warcraft either, Otto?
Only just leveling, but I never really got to the end game or anything, so I don't really
Fair.
know anything
See,
about
I
that.
never played World of Warcraft. Like when I look back in sort of 2007, I just didn't like the aesthetics of it. I thought it just looked too cartoony for my tastes. It just
Yeah,
wasn't
I
for me.
actually thought the same. Like, I started playing MMOs with Korean MMOs,
Mm.
so I was really not into WoW. But my classmates at the time were really into the game, and they just kept every freaking day. They kept hammering, and eventually I succumbed and I played the game.
Gave in and
Yep.
let them force you to play World of Warcraft. Fair enough. Okay. Right, yourself, Otto. You've been raiding since pretty much the game began, as far as I recall. But is there any sort of distinct memories from back in those days that you want to share with us? Your
Stick
raiding
memories.
history? Yeah.
Probably clearing T13 like 6 hours before Heavenward. Heavenward's hit.
Wow,
Yeah, I was literally raiding like 12 hours a day trying to do it in Party Finder.
that's impressive.
I am actually a little bit. I thought you'd have cleared it a lot sooner than that. Like, what is it that caused you to be so clutch on the clear?
I just think, in general, the player base wasn't that great back then, including myself. So it was a bit harder to
I
consistently
mean,
clear, I think.
you were a Lalafell scholar.
That is not true, for one. You cannot say that on the podcast. It's not true. Everyone's going to think it's true now.
No, it's not
But
true. She was a scholar, though.
yes, I was. And that was the
Not
last time I played Scholar. No, actually, I
what.
played Scholar a bit in Heavensward, but yeah. I don't know. I just didn't have the expectations I have now than I did back then. I was
What, of yourself or of the player base?
just playing in general. I was just very happy just to clear things at a slower pace.
Mm.
So yeah, that's just it for me, really.
Is Final Fantasy Europe the first like MMO? You've played any other ones?
No, I've played many others throughout my years. I'm very old now, but
Yeah, make
uh,
yourself sound like you ancient, withered old woman, been playing since the dawn of time.
it's kind of true though. Like RuneScape, Conquer Online. I can't even remember the other ones, but a lot of shitty
You
free to
played
play
Ragnarok
ones.
online as well, right?
Only a little bit. It didn't really work well on my
Uh,
PC. Um,
what
yeah,
kind of
back
PC did you
then
have?
it wasn't that bad, but there were some bugs and stuff that I couldn't get past. So the game.
Right.
So yeah, how about yourself, Enya? Tell us about your raiding history.
Christ, well, I'm my first MMO was Final Fantasy 11, and that was 2007. Now the game itself came out in 2002, and I didn't start until it like moved to the Xbox 360. Um, I chose Final Fantasy mostly because the options realistically then were World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy, and I didn't really like the aesthetic of World of Warcraft, and I was already a huge Final Fantasy fan, so it was an easy choice for me. And my raiding history in that particular game was most of the link shells, what we now know as free companies, were like American, US based time zone free companies and link shells. So I'd raid from midnight till 5 a.m.
Oh
Um,
Jesus!
and with my job, like there were days in which I'd start work at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'd be
Oh my
finishing my
God!
raid at 4:30 in the morning. So I'd be doing dumb stuff like going to bed. I'd finish work at like 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'd go to bed and sleep in the afternoon so that I can get up and raid to be there in the morning. It's
Oh,
it's crazy times. And they had like weekly lockouts, so you could only do like Dynamis on a Tuesday and a Friday because you had to wait 72 hours between raids. Um, and then I'd do like Limbus on a Wednesday and a Saturday. And I did this for years, like years and years and years, until 14 came out in 2010. And we all know how much 14 in 2010 was an absolute shit show. And then I came to 14 again a second time round in 2013. That's when I started raiding definitely more casually. I was raiding then with my wife, and much like yourself, Turn 13 has had one of the largest impacts on me as far as sort of when I cleared it, the feeling as you progress through the fight, as the song and the music
yeah, it was really good.
progresses with the fight. Yeah, it just so that's me, and I've cleared every raid tier except for Gordius since um since 2.0's release. However, you know,
Did you clear a 8?
did we clear A8, Otto? I'm sure we did, or at least I got close. That's
Which
when
one
we
was A8 again? Uh,
Brute Justice.
The robots, the Power Rangers.
Brute Justice. That was when we formed the team.
right, that was the hard one, wasn't it? No, we
It
didn't.
was, yeah.
I think we
Did we not
split
clear it?
before
Mm.
then, because I'm
And
pretty
then
sure
we,
I did it with another group.
I don't recall. Long time ago. Long time
Because
ago.
I have a similar. Obviously, I didn't clear all the bosses in A Realm Reborn, but I have a similar experience as you. I didn't clear Gordius, and then on Midas was when I finally started raiding, but I never managed to clear A8. It was too difficult for the
See
Yeah, it was a
what I
really big
like,
for
step.
people at that
Yeah,
time.
what I liked and both loved and hated at the same time about Gordius was how it sort of it was the raid tier that solidified and firmly put into place the mindset of healer DPS and how
Oh
much you
yeah.
need to care about healer DPS. And the
Mm.
raid team in which I was in at the time, and I was leading this raid team, the two healers were just, they were dead against it. And like it was like pulling teeth trying to get them to do it. And so
Yeah.
eventually we got past like the DPS check where the hand splits and you've got to get like one of the hands down 4%
Oh yes.
to make the match on HP. And you know, in that particular fight was very gear gated, very gear
Mm.
gated. And
We
so trying to
That's
push these two healers to do some damage, yeah, like I say, it was like pulling teeth.
we had
So,
accuracy back
yeah.
then, didn't we?
That's
Though, for healers.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
accuracy was a thing, and you know they had to
For
meld
everybody,
accuracy.
really.
Yeah, true.
That's what actually
Impacted.
made me swap roles to Scholar,
Really?
because yeah, I was playing Black Mage / Summoner, but our healers were just fucking awful, and it was also really hard to find like good healers, especially good scholars. So that's why I swapped in Midas to Scholar.
Wait, what
Not
did you
gonna lie,
play
the
before?
Black Mage Summoner.
Ah, right. Yes.
yeah, not gonna lie, the only reason I leveled a healer isn't because I wanted to play healer, was because when I was doing like expert roulettes, it got on my nerves that healers would do 0 DPS. And I found that yeah, I could probably do, you know, X% more DPS on a DPS than another player, but I could do 100% more DPS on a healer than someone that's doing 0.
Yeah.
So I just started
Yeah.
doing my experts on a healer just so that I can,
And
you
you
know,
could get like really hard carried by healer DPS. Like back then, they do 1,000, 1,500 DPS, and that's just a massive difference when it comes to clearing bosses, but also going through the fight, so that it's much more smooth.
mm. So you know that's our raiding history. And we've already sort of touched on the subject of DPS and you know, personal performance. What's your thoughts on the use of ACT, FF logs? How have you seen the importance of their use in like, you know, Western culture while she was playing over on an EU server versus what you now play on a, you know, a JP server? Because you've obviously
That's
experienced both sides now. We're both, Otto and I, we're very used to the EU mindset,
Yeah.
which, you know, it's not by any stretch of the imagination perfect.
yeah. Well, I have to say that when I started playing Final Fantasy, and I came from World of Warcraft, where we had Warcraft logs, which is the
Mm.
original FF logs, I was very surprised that that didn't exist in FF, because how do you know that like you're doing the right thing? Um, so back then, ACT was like super black magic stuff, and obviously you didn't have a way to drill into what you're doing, what your teammates are doing, and figuring out what damage is coming in, what healer is coming out, etc. So I think overall, it's a fantastic tool if you're doing like high end progression, week 1 to 3 probably, progression or ultimate progression or so on. Or if you just want to like improve as a player, because what else do you have, right? Would you just like look at your character and assume you're doing okay? In
I
terms of like,
remember when ACT was introduced into Final Fantasy. It was during the like, do you remember the first relic, the Rememberable relic, and people were doing light farming. To upgrade their relics. It was sort of like late second coil, early final coil, and people were, like I say, farming light for their relics, and they would make like Ifrit hard mode or Ifrit hard mode runs with one tank, one healer, and they'd put in the party finder that you've got to be able to do like 500 DPS, which obviously seems like a really sort of low number when you look at how much DPS we're doing now. But 500 DPS, that was like god tier DPS. 500,
yeah,
absolute god tier.
yeah.
So what's the difference like with the EU mindset then versus the you know the Western versus Eastern mindset?
Well, in JP, well, I'd say there's two camps in JP. There's the English speaking JP, or rather non Japanese JP, and then the Japanese JP. So the non Japanese JP players are kind of like in between what the West thinks and what Japanese think. And obviously, the Japanese speaking ones are on their own camp. The first thing you need to consider is that I'd say the majority of Japanese players play on a PlayStation, so they don't have access to ACT or FFlogs. So it's not something they're used to use. Many of them know it exists, but they're just like, whatever, this is something the Western people use. So you'll never see stuff, definitely not in like casual content. You'll never see people ask you for meeting a certain DPS threshold. They won't even ask you for eye level. Rather, they use things like such as have you clear, have you not clear, or which phase are you in during progression. In more organized content, it's more of the same. Like you'd see a lot of Japanese statics that don't use ACT, or that they'll have one person that uses it. It's just not also in their culture to kind of like
Stat
point
shame.
things out. Yeah, so like not say like, hey, you're not performing, but rather they'll just be like quiet and just suffer. Maybe after a certain point or a certain pain threshold, somebody will tell them like, hey, you're doing a lot of mistakes, so we need to replace you. But they won't really directly say, yeah, your DPS sucks, as they would in the West. Obviously, there's also very toxic like Japanese groups, and they'll do that, but the majority of people don't play like that. So it's very different as what you might be used to in Europe.
How do you feel personally about your logs though? Like when you're performing and you're doing content, do you use ACT and do you sort of not compare yourself to other players, but certainly look at your own performance and try to improve your logs? Do you upload them and that type of stuff?
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, since I moved to JP and up until very recently, I was just pugging, 100% pugged the first 2 tiers, and this last year I pugged half of it. And so I kind of didn't care for looking at ACT, because when you're pugging, whether it's in Europe or in NA or in JP, the quality, it's all over the place. And if you start running ACT and checking ACT, you're just going to get depression. You're just going to see people that are massively underperforming. And especially in the Asian communities, there's, as I said before, there's this culture of just not pointing mistakes out. So if you get in a shitty group and everybody's shit or the majority are shit, you just have to suffer through at least one foot, which is 30 minutes. And then you just silently disband and move on to the next group. So running ACT in that type of environment is really, really frustrating. I do still run it for myself to see if I'm doing better, to see where I'm screwing up, and stuff like that. And I do upload my logs when I remember. I have been a lot more religious recently because I started playing on statics, doing ultimate content, and the value of ACT is much more
Prevalent
on your
in
face.
those,
Yeah.
in those high-end content, certainly.
Yeah.
So Otto, I know, like, I only really delve in the party finder after I've sort of cleared the raid tier and there's a lot of downtime and I'm trying to sort of get gear for alts and stuff like that. But yourself, Otto, you have pugged entire raid tiers and you've also done it in static environments. But you haven't. You're solely an EU server player. So, what's your thoughts and opinions on sort of the difference between the two approaches to the plugin and then the static environment? Which one do you prefer, and which one do you think and see being the one that you'd go for going forward in the future? As she ran off to go and talk to her sister, I wonder. Left us in the lurch.
Yeah, looks like it. I can pick up that question though, because I think it also there's a huge difference between what JP thinks and what the West thinks with regards to pugging. And something that really surprised me when I moved here is that the majority of statics on JP, whether they're Japanese speaking or non-Japanese speaking, they'll form a group for the first 4 to 6 weeks, clear, maybe do 2 or 3 re-clears and then just disband.
Really, they don't bother farming up like best in
No.
slot. They don't. They just get the clear and then that's it. Happy
Yep.
days.
Yep, disband and then you can DF. So the Japanese use duty finder more than party finder.
Yeah. Now that's just strange to me because I've always been in a static, but one of the biggest reasons for that is I had a really shitty work schedule. So I created a static that would work around me in the most selfish way I can possibly say it, because it's the truth of the matter. For me to be able to raid in this game, I needed to find people that were willing to, you know, work with my crappy raid times. So I don't really
Yeah,
have
but
much of anything that's party finder except for post clear. You know, I don't have any pug XP. It's I don't know.
yeah, the thing is when like the majority of the player base is used to pugging, then even if you have a crappy schedule, you can find groups. Of course, it's not as comfortable as just logging in and everybody's ready to go. You still have to find people,
Not that you'd know about
make sure you have the role.
that. People turn up on time. Who'd have thought? Who'd have thought? Are you back, Otto?
I am, yeah.
Welcome back. Yeah,
Thank
we were
you.
just saying, you've experienced both progressing through raid tiers via the party finder and via static environments. So I was kind of trying to gauge your opinion on which one of the two approaches you found to be the better option for yourself as a person. Which one do you think you'd continue to, and which one do you think you preferred to do, and which one would you use going forward? Would you go for the static approach, where you have set raid schedules, set raid times, turn up every week, get the raid tier done in the same people, and you know the quality you're with? Or do you think the bouncing from party finder to party finder and just spending, you know, X amount of hours a day, as much time as you can be bothered to put into it? Like, which one did you prefer doing?
Personally, the static. If you know beforehand if they're up to your standards, because if you join any random one, they might as well just be like a random party in Party Finder. They're
Yeah.
normally that bad. So you kind of need to vet them a little bit in terms of their
Have you
play
got a
style.
static for 6.0?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I'm thinking about making one, just because.
Didn't you say that like 3 months ago?
Yes, I did, but I've been like, I don't really see a point of making one right now when, a new one that is, when people can easily change their minds about what they want to play.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
already been on 2 6.0 statics, and both of them I've left.
Yeah. It's exactly that problem, because yeah, people just easily change their mind, and it makes it really awkward for other people if they like take their role or something. So yeah, to your question, yes, static 100%, but
With a big caveat.
Party Finder is good if you don't want to commit to any schedule, because it's really good just to be able to join a party, get some experience, get it clear if you can, and then move on up in the world in the Party Finder.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna bash the party finder, but I will say that my opinion on people that do clear the raid tier on the party finder, they've got to have some thick skin, and they've certainly got to be able to put the hours in. Like you
Yes,
can't,
definitely.
like you've got to be able to put, you know, 6, 7, 8 hours a day bouncing from party finder to party finder, knowing that you're going to be putting those sort of first 2 to 4 weeks of just solid lots of bouncing around, and that's not something I have the time to be doing. So it's not something I'll ever do.
2 to 4
Like,
weeks, unless it's cheaper.
oh yeah, unless it's Orxo on JP servers, then it might be week 46 rather than 4 to 6. Okay.
I have to
Now,
say that the game has never been on a better state to pug than now. It's so much
what makes you
easier.
say that?
Well, back in early Heaven's Ward, we didn't have PF, and you didn't have like automatic queuing. You had to go to like the entrance of the dungeon and then shout
yes.
that you're looking for a group.
I
So-
liked that though.
Yeah, I do remember you saying that you like that. I do remember
liked
doing
that.
that as well.
Now, I'm not saying that like they should get rid of the party finder, or they should get rid of the duty finder, or any of these things. I just think that that feeling of community that it created was great. You'd go to, Second Coil was Northern Gridania section, whatever it's called. I don't even know what it's called right now. North Shroud, and you'd go there and you'd stand around and you'd be checking people's gear, and you'd look at them and you'd get some gear envy, and you'd see those week 1 clearers, week 2 clearers. You'd see them with their big shiny new weapons and that Allegan body piece, the healer Allegan body piece, which just looked sexy, and you'd see them, and like glamour wasn't a huge thing as well, so people would be wearing whatever dropped and whatever gear they had, so you'd be able to
True.
see the tier sets and the raid sets and the gear sets, and you'd look at them, you get some proper gear envy, and then you and your team, you'd be like, I want to be that guy, I want to have that gear, and you'd do it, and that's what that was almost part of the incentive to clear the tier, and that's not here anymore. You walk
That,
into Limsa and you just see some frigging cat girl in a bikini, and you're like, all right, what class do you play? I'm a tank, of course, because you're going to block lots of fucking shots in that bikini, aren't you? Like, you don't get the gear envy anymore, and I think that's missing.
that is true, but you also had the other end of the spectrum where you couldn't see if somebody had already clear or if they have the gear that they say they have until they join the party, and then you queue into the place, or you wait for them to fly in and then you inspect them and then you tell them like, hey, what the hell? And you've already wasted like 15 minutes.
I do remember doing that, like early 2.0, to clear Titan hard mode when Titan hard mode was hard.
Oh yeah.
And everybody was obviously wearing item level 55. It was like Toxotes gear or some shit it was called. And then you upgraded to Dark Light gear, and you're all trying to clear Titan hard mode, and you get everybody together. The party finder didn't exist, and average item level wasn't a thing. So you quite literally gathered everybody in Mordona, and you'd check their gear one by one, the other 7 people in your team, and you'd inspect each piece of gear and almost like whip out a calculator and start adding up all their average item level, and then somebody would rock up and they'd be still wearing like an item level 49 Electum's ring, and you'd be like, get out, just get out. You know, not no, we're gonna find someone that's got like a dark light ring that's gonna join our
Yeah.
party. Those are good days. You see, I think that's missing though. Like people, there is no accountability for yourself as a person. I like the fact that we have cross-server party finders. I like the fact that soon cross-data center, especially for EU, cross-data center party finder is
Yeah.
going to become a thing, because God does EU need it. But
Yeah.
I also
Yeah.
do miss the community aspect and the fact that you were held accountable for your own person and name, because you would see names pop up in that shout chat and say, shit, I ain't joining that person's party finder. They were
You
dog
see,
shit.
that's something that you still have in JP. I agree with you. Like now that you have cross server, um, and everything's automated, you've lost to a certain degree that community aspect. But in JP, it's very common to have and I'm doing air quotes, community source blacklists,
Oh
where
Right.
if you're
wow.
a
Okay.
cheater, you'll be added there, and then if you're there, nobody will want to invite you to the party finder or any group whatsoever. So there's still some level of pressure to not be an absolute cheater or like not lie. Uh, that I think doesn't exist in the West.
I agree with that, and I think that's something that definitely is needed to be accountable for your own name and your own performance. Like it's all fair and good uploading your logs to FF logs and having that sort of that spreadsheet of your achievements there saying this is how good I am as a player, but that doesn't mean you're a good player. That's just a number on a screen, and you don't have that accountability for your name here in
Mm.
anything EU, and I bet it's just as bad on NA. There is no accountability. You join a
Mm.
party, if you're shit, you get kicked, you join the next party, or if they're shit, you kick them, they join the next party, and within seconds you've forgotten what their name was.
Yeah.
Like,
And by the way, one of the reasons why these lists exist are two reasons. One obviously is name changes, but the other one is that JP players use the blacklist a lot. So they won't say anything to you, you're just bad, and they add you to the blacklist. So almost everybody is running around with their blacklist full.
Oh
I'm one of
Jesus.
them. So you need to have something else to help you filter out the bad actors.
So I guess that's something that you'd like to see or hope to see come towards the EU and the Western side of things is accountability,
Yeah.
usage of the blacklist.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's already in there, so just use it. But I don't think that's gonna happen unless the game enforces the system, because it's just a cultural difference. Like Western players are more like whatever, it's just a game, bro, kind of mentality.
Yeah, I have that
Yeah.
mentality as well. If I go in Party Finder, that is.
I'm glad. The one thing about Party Finder that I'm glad has changed, and it's like something that's not even related to Party Finder, is um, the removal of the Dragoon disembowel buff. Because I used to avoid certain Party Finders if it didn't have a Dragoon in it, simply because I've obviously played
Oh,
Machinist and Bard, and I'd
yes.
straight up just not go in them. And this obviously stems back to again the FF logs thing, because I was so hell bent on my own performance and like improving my own performance. I didn't give a shit what other people were doing. I gave a shit what I was doing, and I just would avoid the Party Finder, because if they didn't have a Dragoon, I'm out. Tag myself out. I was like, nah, not doing it.
Yeah.
But I don't have that issue anymore. I don't have that problem, so it's made
Yeah,
Party Finder better for
that's where
me.
I was going with the second thing that has made uh, pagging content so much more easy now than ever. One is the systems that we have, and the second one is just the game design has changed. Like back then, even in Heavensward, you needed somebody to put slash in the buff for the tanks at least, and for if you have a ninja, although the ninja already brings it, then you need the pierce in the buff for the range DPS. You need people that have enough casters that have accuracy, otherwise they won't do any damage. And there's nothing more frustrating than casting for like 3 seconds and see miss. So all of that is gone, and that has made it so much easier to just jump into the content and start doing it without worrying about all the preparation you have to do, and finding the right composition so that you can do the content and etc.
Yeah, it that has definitely improved the Party Finder. It's definitely made the Party Finder much more fun, because your performance is based upon your own performance rather than the composition of the group. So it's made
Yeah,
Party Finder more accessible.
Yeah.
But I
yeah.
still don't do Party Finder raiding, because I don't have the time to be putting into 12 hours a day raiding to swap from Party Finder to Party Finder. I think I'd get less prog in than I would
Oh
just
yeah,
doing my
definitely.
consistent static.
You definitely get less unless your static rates like 2 times a week, and they do like one lockout, so a total of 4 hours per week. You will always have a much faster progress in a static than party finding.
Have you got a static for 6.0 ready, Oxo? You say you'd left 2. Have you got another one?
Yeah, no,
You
not
have?
yet.
Not yet.
I'm waiting because I'm seeing a lot of groups. Basically, almost every group already has a Reaper and a Sage,
Of course.
and
Mine included. I'm the bloody Reaper.
and and I'm thinking, well, we still don't really know how they're gonna play. Maybe they're quite boring. Maybe they're half broken, like Sam. I remember when Samurai released it, did shit DPS.
Oh, 4.0.
And
Yeah, it got shunned for that entire expansion.
exactly. And the last thing you want is to have your group just like a week before raid for your Reaper and your Sage say, actually, this sucks. I'm gonna play something else. But I need to level them. I don't have time. Just find somebody else, guys.
Well, I've got Ninja as my backup, you see. That's my
Yeah.
backup plan. I already have the backup plan, because judging by the live letters and stuff, it doesn't look like Ninja's gameplay is going to change all that drastically. It's still just going to be 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 3, 1-2, 3 trick attack.
Yeah.
Like, it isn't going to
Mm.
change like vastly. I'm just going to have some kind of cool Raiden attack where I suddenly become something out of Mortal Kombat, and that's
Yeah.
okay. I'm okay with that, and
Yeah.
so I
If you
do
have a
have the
backup,
backup.
then that's good. Yeah. But
But
if you just go, no, I'm a Reaper main, and I'm not
yeah.
gonna play anything but Reaper,
Yeah.
and then it sucks, then you're fucked, and your group is also screwed.
Yeah, I do want to play Reaper. Reaper to me does look like a very, very fun job. It looks like everything that Dark Knight should have been from the original game. It just should have been called Dark Knight.
Oh, Dark Knight is cool right now, though. I don't understand your hatred for Dark Knight.
No, the
What?
thing is, I
I
Dark
can
Knight
love
understand.
sucks.
Dark.
No,
No.
Oh
listen. I
god.
don't hate Dark Knight as a job. I think that it is the tank that has managed to hook me enough to actually level it from level 30 to 80. I tried all of the tanks and I can't stand any of them. However, Dark Knight did enable me to enjoy it enough to not only get it to level 80, but do content on it. But it isn't the fact that I dislike Dark Knight as a job. I dislike Dark Knight because the theme of Dark Knight is a damage dealer that deals damage based upon sacrificing its own HP to do more damage. That's the point behind Dark Knight. It's not a tank.
Yeah, it used to be like that in Heaven's Sword. Well, you'd sacrifice your
Yeah.
MP rather than HP,
Yeah.
but
Well,
it
there you go.
wasn't.
That's
And
not the thing.
it had this mechanics where if you tag somebody before they die, you get like extra MP and all of this kind of like sacrificial things. But
But
it's been
even that, that's
completely
not Dark
gutted.
Knight. That's not Dark Knight. That's sacrificing. That's gaining MP. That's yes, Dark Knight had like an osmosis style ability to sap more MP back because it was obviously the dark magic based DPS, but it was
Mm.
about sacrificing your own HP to deal more damage, and that was what the Dark Knight is sort of. That is the theme of Dark Knight. What it isn't is a tank. What it is a DPS, and there's it's unfortunate that it's called Dark Knight because, in my opinion, it is the best tank, and that's where I sort of had this problem.
Yeah.
I like the Dark Knight job, but I just don't like the fact that it's called Dark Knight. And that's a weird thing to say, I know, but it's the truth of the matter. And so I do believe that Reaper, if Reaper just had like a Soul Eater style ability, then it just basically is everything Dark Knight should have been. And that's what appeals to me.
Mm.
It even has as the
I see.
6.0 collector's edition the Final Fantasy 11 Dark Knight Scythe as its glamour, which
Oh, okay.
that's why I've also bought the collector's edition so I can have that scythe. It's called a Death Scythe, and it had like the chance to proc death on certain bosses, just randomly kill
But
them.
this is gonna be the first time you're gonna be playing
Melee.
Melee, yeah.
like a melee in Savage, right? In progression Savage.
Well, I tanked first coil but in 2013. Does that count?
No.
No,
It
I don't think
doesn't.
so.
It is going to be the first time I've played melee in progression. Yes, it's not
Very
my first
interesting.
time clearing content in as a melee.
Yeah.
I've played all sorts of jobs, and obviously with OBA and stuff, I have played ninja. And
Mm.
I've done a lot of party finder on ninja so that I can sort of get used to the melee mindset. And I've discovered that I'm probably the greediest person on the planet. So that's something
Because
I might need to curb a little bit when it comes to prog.
yeah, 100%. Because that's what made me stop playing melee. This expansion, one pagging and secondly pagging through progressing through pagging as a melee.
Hmm.
It's just extremely frustrating. Like you have no idea.
Especially with the damage downs as well. I
Yeah,
hate
damage downs
that.
with tanks that are like massively and consistent, and the JP strats also always have the DPS do everything. So you lose a lot of uptime, and it is just so frustrating.
Yeah, I can't say I've had that sort of problems when it comes to sort of strats,
But
especially when you
I,
play ninja, because ninja is a bit more forgiving with it. So you can save ninjutsu for being away from the boss and stuff, so it's not too bad
yeah,
for some of the less optimal uptime strats. Um,
I, I
that
still
being said,
wanted to keep playing melee because I find it to be the most fun role.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
that's why I swapped to tank. You still have, especially with tanks like Gunbreaker, you basically are like a melee DPS.
what are you going to play in 6.0? Or is that still sort of
Uh,
the jury's still out on that one?
Still up in the air, but most likely Warrior and Gunbreaker.
Oh. Sticking to
Yourself, Ossa?
tank. Oh, I haven't decided yet.
You're going
Yeah.
to go back to your scholar days?
No, healer. I find healer kind of boring. I still agree that it's the hardest role though to play good in out of all the roles. But
Mm.
no, I just find it
Especially if
boring.
you're the barrier healer.
Yeah, exactly. No, I thought I would want to play Reaper. But then I saw it and it's a bit like, it doesn't look that great. Especially the positionals. I don't understand why it has positionals on the,
The
whatever buff.
finishers.
Yeah, I just don't get why they did that rather than just putting it on the normal rotation like all the other melees.
Look at Dragoon. Dragoon has its positionals on the finishers as well, and then if you do the finishers correct, you get a bonus to
Yeah.
your
But they're removing that
first
in the
first
expansion.
attack. What, they're removing those positionals, those 2 positionals?
Yeah. So you always
Are they?
get you still have the positional for the extra potency, but they're removing the
The reward.
raid and thrust buff
Oh.
that you need to do the attack. You always will do the raid and
Oh my god,
thrust
I
or
didn't know
whatever it's
that.
called.
That's shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is shit because
Yeah.
that raid and thrust was obviously a reward
Yeah,
for
exactly.
playing well, and that's sort of my gripe with positionals.
Yeah.
How
Yeah. For playing well or having tanks that are not spastic, because
well,
even if you're playing well, if the tank turns the boss, you're fucked.
you can't fix stupid, unfortunately, and that's just something that comes with the nature of Party Finder. Is you get stupid people. That being said, though, like in optimal environment, I do still think that things like raid and thrust should be a reward
Yeah.
for
I would agree. I agree. I used to agree with that until I started to proc ultimates, and then I realized that positional uptime in ultimates is basically impossible in certain phases. So then it becomes very frustrating when you have things like that that you can't. It's just almost impossible for you to hit that positional. So you're not gonna get the buff unless you have True North up.
which is quite a lot, to be fair. It is quite a lot. I was going to say, touching on Endwalker, what is it that most excites you guys about the expansion? I know Otto and I have discussed it quite a lot because we've been around since 2.0, and my feelings towards the expansion, this is the most hyped I've been for an expansion since basically
Same.
when Heaven's Ward was
Yes.
released.
Same.
Like
Mm.
genuinely, I haven't been this hyped for an expansion in a long time. I could even straight up in a very short description describe to you that when Heaven's Ward was released, it was that first expansion. It was so hyped, it was incredible. We were all excited. But then when Stormblood was being released, like it almost felt like a relief that Heaven's Ward was ending. Not because Heaven's Ward had a bad story, just because of the way the raid tier went and the content
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
so you obviously had Gordius which was a shit show, Midas which was that sort of comfortable middle ground, and then Creator, and so we were all sort of relieved that Heaven's Ward was ending from that
And the
perspective.
extremes were also very challenging. Like,
Yeah, they were.
I remember
Yes,
Ravana and Thornton, all of them were very challenging
and then obviously
fights.
there's the skip saw memes and stuff like that. So yeah, from
Yeah.
so, so I was excited, not excited, but I was relieved that Heaven's Ward was ending. So that my feeling towards Stormblood wasn't excitement; it was relief. But then when 5.0 came out, I had like literally no feelings for 5.0 whatsoever. It was just
Yeah.
literally a matter of, all right, okay,
Yeah. I
I
agree with
guess
you.
that's what zero feelings, neither good, bad, neither relief or excitement or negative. No feelings towards Shadowbringers release whatsoever. So then 6.0's come out, and I don't know what it is that's created this sense of hype. I guess it may be the fact some of it is attributed that I am changing job roles for the next raid tier, so that's exciting. That being said, though, I am so hyped for 6.0. So how do you feel about the expansion also? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I'm extremely hyped. I'm very, very looking forward to it. I think I had similar feelings. Well, when Heaven's Ward was announced and released, I didn't care much because I was barely playing the game.
Okay.
Uh, But I do agree that when Stormblood was announced and released, I had that same feeling of relief. Like, oh my god, I managed to clear Creator. I didn't get cock blocked by the last fight. It's over. I've got my relic. I've got everything. Uh, and then Stormblood started. The expansion, in my opinion, was very exciting in terms of systems and job changes and so on, but very underwhelming in terms of story. So, and then when 5.0 was announced and then later released, I had a lot of trepidation because we were going to a different world, and I thought, what the hell are they doing? This makes no sense, etc., etc. But the story was incredible, and I think that's the main thing that makes me very excited for Endwalker is what they did with Shadowbringers was, in my opinion, like the best they've done in terms of storytelling with Final Fantasy XIV, and also in terms of storytelling with many Final Fantasy games, like in the entire franchise. So I'm very excited when, Yoshi P says stuff like 6.0 is going to be even bigger, even better. Music's going to be even bigger, even better. Storytelling is going to be bigger and better. So it's super exciting. And I still think 5.0 and just Shadowbringers in general was a pretty good expansion. Especially if I think it was lacking in content, probably because of COVID. But if you take it as a whole package, it was very exciting. It set the bar pretty high. And I think those expectations are creating all this excitement for the next expansion, because you're thinking, okay, if they can make a game that's better than this one and they don't have to deal with COVID or whatever, then it's going to be fantastic. So I'm really, really, really looking forward to it. Number one thing is story, but I'm also looking forward to the new raids, in particular, because they're doing a lot of like mitigation changes to jobs. Almost every job now has some sort of mitigation. So I imagine raid design is going to change drastically. And in particular, because on this previous expansion, they say they had a new team of like new recruits working on the encounters. So most of the encounters we've gotten in Shadowbringers was a fresh team that now it's an experienced team, and they're coming into a new expansion with all this experience they've gathered. So very excited about that as well. And hopefully we get 2 ultimates this time around.
Yeah, we can hope. 2 ultimates would be nice. Quite frankly, I'd be happy with just one that's a good ultimate, because it's definitely going to be something that's going to take some time to complete.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest though, like Otto is a serial cutscene skipper, so like
Yeah.
he doesn't have a clue about the story or anything like that. But I just have to completely disagree with the point behind Shadowbringers being like a good story. I just think it's a completely overhyped story that the one thing I'm sick of people hearing people say is, oh, it's feels bringers. Yeah, fuck
Feels
off.
bringers. I've
Feels.
never.
That's what they call it.
I
Honestly,
don't.
you
I
see,
didn't
it
know.
is that's the nickname in the community that people call Shadows Bringers, is Feels Bringers, because
Oh,
apparently it's an emotional expansion, and that it hits you in the feels is the term that's coined. And in the grand scheme of things, like I saw, big spoilers for anybody that cares about the story. I saw MXL come on this screen, and I just wanted to put a bullet between his eyes after spending, the previous 3 expansions, ARR, Heaven's Ward, and Stormblood, being at odds with Ascians. And then when an Ascian turns up on my screen and says, "Oh, I just kind of want to follow you around like some kind of weirdo that likes to watch," I'd have shot him if that was me, clear there and then, right between the eyes. Get lost. But no, no, we decided to wait right up until the end of the story for him to then betray us, because that was not expected at all whatsoever. Like some people say that predictable storyline isn't inherently bad; it's actually quite a good thing if it's written well. But no, there's a difference between being predictable good and just predictable stupid, and that was stupid. There was
Hmm.
nothing. There was
I
nothing. There
have,
nothing. Go ahead.
yeah, for me, I would say it's not Emmett Sauch that uh, gave me the feels, as they say, but rather rather Elidibus' story, which came to conclusion with Shadowbringers. That for me was the high point of the expansion, not so much Emmett Selch, because we only met him this expansion. So if you look at Shadowbringers in isolation, the story is okayish. But if you look at it in conjunction with everything we've gone through, then that's how it becomes a much better storyline. Particularly because of in the 2 story points that I want to make is, one, the almost conclusion of Heidelin and Zodiac and all the kind of lore bombs that we got in this expansion, and then secondly, seeing the more like humane side to the Ascians, particularly Elidibus and his
Mm.
character development.
See, I was like Otto until basically very, very recently. I skipped everything just because I don't particularly enjoy the way in which Final Fantasy tells the story. Um, it's okay. It's less painful now, because if you create a new character, you can just go, quest to quest to quest to quest, and you can just focus on the quest line.
Yeah.
You can focus on the main story quest, and you can just go through it, and you can enjoy the story as one digestible thing. And I did do that. I created an alt, and I went through the story. I read every cutscene. I read every sort of dialogue and watched every cutscene, and I just came to the conclusion that after the ending of patch 3.3 and that sort of Nidhogg conclusion, they haven't managed to hit that level of amazingness since. That conclusion, except for Horchafont. God knows why
Interesting.
people like him. I don't know why people got upset with Horchafont and his death and stuff. It just baffles the shit out of me.
Spoilers. I don't know who that is.
Do you care?
Is it that Dragoon?
No.
Wait, is
No.
it okay? No,
Horchafont was the
I guess it's a paladin because he has a shield and a
oh,
sword.
palette. Oh, is that the one that spoilers died in Heaven's Ward?
yeah
And the
Yeah.
one that people make altars for some reason.
yeah exactly. That's exactly who he is.
Okay,
And
now I know.
he turns up sort of mid 2.x, post 2.0 patch cycle where you're going through the quest lines. He turns up there in Kurthus as like just some random Ishgardian that helps you, but then he eventually becomes the guy that takes you in 2.55 when everybody else is trying to kill you. And so I get why people sort of have this attachment to him, but I just don't. Yeah, I don't know. It didn't sort of hit me as hard as it makes out for people when he
Yeah.
does finally bite the dust. Same with his Sail. Like his Sail turns up 2.4 as Lady Iceheart, and then she journeys with us, and next thing you know, she just randomly jumps in front of a bullet for you, and you're like, well, what did you even do that for? There was no need, no cause for it, and yeah, and then yeah. So I don't get why people get so uppity
Well,
about their deaths.
I think there's certainly there's a little bit of like over sensitivity to these characters. I think their deaths are just like plot devices to make the story more sentimental. But I do
Yes.
see where they get that, because both characters, but especially with Hortifant, he's just a random NPC that you see at the end of a Realm Reborn, right? It's almost like nobody, and then you come back to him every now and then, and since then, all the way through Heaven's Sword, you see how he evolves, the development that he has from this side quest NPC to being in the MSQ to then helping you get through the MSQ until his eventual demise, and afterwards he still helps you at the end with Nidhogg. There wasn't anything like this before in Final Fantasy XIV. So this was the first time that you experienced this type of character development of a side character, not even like a scion. He's just like random NPC, as you say. And I think that took a lot of people by surprise, and they were massively impacted by him.
I
Because
do
there's
hope.
plenty of NPCs that die, by the way.
Yeah.
But they just appear like 1-2 patches and then die. Whereas he stayed for like 3 years or something like that.
3
Six.
years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Horchafont was
because
around from
What
like
the
patch
hell?
2. Horchafont was around from like patch 2.2,
yeah,
which that was. I'm trying to think when 2.2 was.
it's like the
Probably
first time you
it
go
was
to
2014, and
yeah.
then he dies when you get towards the end of Heaven's Ward, which was mid to late 2015. So he was around for at least like a year and a half, nearly 2 years before he popped his clogs as like a
Yeah.
reoccurring character.
Yeah, and then you still see him at the end. So
Yeah, and then he makes his reappearance. But then, like I say, I think that they haven't really hit the sort of peak of storytelling since patch 3.3. That finale, big dragon fight. That's obviously naturally going to be the
well,
coolest thing
for
ever
me, they
already.
did for 100%. They did with Warrior of Light fight. That for me was amazing. It was just incredible. Everything, the conclusion of the storyline from Elidibus, the soundtrack, which then later on when they say that Soken composed that while he was in his hospital bed, I'm like,
That
oh my
is
god, this
definitely
guy's a
one of the
god.
better songs that has been released. That soundtrack for the So Sex fight, that was really good.
So for me, that was like the peak. But I do agree that the conclusion of of the Heaven's Sword arc was pretty epic, especially when you have like in the middle Stormblood, which was in my opinion, very, very weak.
It was. Mostly because I feel that they split the expansion too much in two. It's meant to be an expansion about the freeing of Alamigo, and then we spent 60% of it rocking
Yeah.
around Doman with Hien, and I'm like, well, what the hell has this got to do with
And
Alamigo?
plus
Um,
Alamigo was so underwhelming. Like I had been hyped for it since Around Reborn, when you were doing the
mm.
quest for the Amalja. And then you don't even get to see the city. It's just split in like a couple of dungeons, and it's just like it's so underwhelming. It's so bad.
Yeah, the Alamigo side of
Yeah.
Stormblood was probably 30% of the actual expansion, if that, like the actual Alamigo arc of the Stormblood expansion, whereas the other 70% was definitely on like Doman, and I think that's where they went wrong. They could have just focused 100% on one and or the other. If they just did it 100% about Doma, and then I think it would have been a great expansion. I don't know how they would have took
Yeah.
the story in that direction, but that is something that they should have done, and it would have made the expansion great.
I
From a
still
story
think
perspective, I might actually watch the expansion 6.0 this time and read it for the first time.
Wow.
I've
Okay.
like, I know I did it with my alt. I know it's a big thing. I did it with my alt, and this might be the first time. And I think the reason why I would do this is because I'm really salty about the fact that everybody loves and overhypes the shit out of Shadowbringers, and I'm just really hoping that 6.0 exceeds everything that Shadowbringers
Yeah.
was, so people stop overhyping the shit out of Shadowbringers, and that's what I'm hoping for. So I might sit down and watch the story.
I think the main reason why a lot of people overhype Shadowbringers, which I think it's a great expansion, but it has this extra hype because of the influx of new players we've had who have never experienced like good storytelling in an MMO before. So
Mm.
for them, this is like, oh my god! Like imagine you never have eaten like a chocolate cake in your life, and then you eat one, and you're like, oh my god, what have I missed?
Why have I never had this chocolate cake before? If they compare it to it's the not just the best storytelling in an MMO, but storytelling in any RPG ever. Sort of that's how much they overhype it. Like it's really massively overhyped. They don't just say it's the best storytelling in an MMO, which I could probably agree with. That between Heaven's Ward and Shadowbringers, it probably is the best storytelling in an MMO. But is it the best storytelling in any RPG of all time? I don't know. That's
Oh.
not
No,
that's not a
definitely not.
statement. No, that's not a statement that I can agree with. And that is how much it gets overhyped. And so when I look at sort of 6.0 of something I'm looking forward to, I am looking forward to 6.0 story being better than Shadowbringers for that particular reason. It's a really salty and kind of a bit sort of petty, but Christ, I am looking forward to that.
I am very excited because it's a conclusion of like 7 years
Mm,
of or 8 of playing the game, and also very excited for the future because throughout the years they've always have left like little breadcrumbs here and there. Sometimes they pick them up, sometimes they don't. So I'm really looking forward to see what 6.1 it's about. Like what's the next big arc? What's the next saga, as they say?
yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, I think on that note, we
That
can
is the
certainly sort of,
end.
yeah, we can
You guys
call it
didn't even
here.
need me. You guys were perfectly fine by yourselves.
Yeah, I still say that without the third person here, it would have felt awkward.
No.
We could have probably done it, but I do think having the third person here just created a natural feel. So, there's been a few people in the chat that have been watching. So thank you to everybody that have been watching. And we don't know when the next one's going to be.
Probably
This
next year.
is this is an experiment, so we'll see how it goes, and we'll see when we plan the next one for.
Yeah.
In the meantime, thanks for joining, and we'll talk to you
Thank you.
probably
Thank
in
you.
6.0,
Yeah.
Yeah,
2 weeks.
Goodbye.
exciting.